The first sound that should not exist came at 12:17 a.m., a chain rattling above the ceiling where no chain was installed. It slid once, paused, then dragged again, slow and heavy, like someone pulling a metal rope across the roof of the security housing unit at Pelican Bay. Officer Lauren Price stopped in the middle of the tier. Officer Tom Harris lifted his head from the control desk. Every speaker on the wall gave the same soft cough of static at the same time, as if the building had cleared its throat. Then a whisper moved through the vents, thin and close, riding the air like fog. "Do you hear us?" Lauren pressed the talk button on her radio. "Control to C-tier, confirm maintenance on the roof." Static. No answer. The chain above them rattled again, 3 sharp clinks, like a code. From cell 21, a metal cup tapped the floor. Tap, tap, tap. From somewhere far down the block came a single shout. "Hey." And then the shout cut off, like a door closing on a sentence. Tom stood. "That's not on our map," he said. He meant the sound. They kept a simple map in their heads. Vents hum. Lights buzz. Water drips in the same corner every night. These sounds are normal. You learn them like a song. Tonight, the song was wrong. The chain clinked again. The intercom crackled. And in the brief silence that followed, the building gave a new sound that had weight, like a key turning in a lock that no one touched. Lauren raised her flashlight toward the ceiling. The beam vanished into the dark. The whisper came back, a little louder now, stretched thin across the vents. "You were never supposed to hear this." Every red emergency light along the tier blinked once, and went out. The hallway fell into heavy dark. And just before the backup glow returned, a voice that sounded like it was standing right behind Lauren breathed a single word into the speaker above cell 21. "Listen." Hours earlier, the night had started the way reports and documentaries say it does in a Supermax, with a long list and a quiet hall. The SCU is built for control. Thick doors. Narrow windows. Hard light. The public thinks it is always chaos and shouting. The truth, shown in interviews, audits, and officer logs, is slower. Nights are long runs of small sounds. A drip. A scrape. A cough. A paper page turning under a bunk light. The job is to notice when a small sound is not small. At 9:45 p.m., Lauren and Tom walked the line for health and welfare. They said names and waited for eyes. They marked boxes on a clipboard. In cell 9, Michael Reeves asked for more toilet paper. In cell 14, Anthony Diaz sat on his bunk and stared at the wall, not sleepy, just still. In cell 21, a quiet man named Eric Vaughn had stacked 3 folded cups by his food port like little tents. He did this every night, then knocked them over one by one when he wanted to talk to the tier. Tonight, the cups stayed up. He nodded once when Lauren called his name. Just before 11 p.m., the vents ran a routine test. The fans got louder for 10 seconds, then settled. The lights hummed their usual thin B sound, and then went soft. The place felt like a machine that had already chosen to work. Tom poured coffee in the control room and set the volume on the intercom to normal. Lauren checked her keys and wrote the time of the next round, 12:15 a.m. People tell ghost stories about prisons. The officers who last here do not. They tell sound stories. They can tell a spoon from a paper clip hitting concrete. They can tell a rubber sandal from a bare foot by the squeak it makes. They know the plumbing knocks when 3 cells flush at the same time, and they know a real knock when they hear one. They listen with their faces calm because fear is a sound too, and it spreads. At midnight, the low part of the night arrived. Everyone who could sleep tried to sleep. Everyone who could not sleep tried to breathe slow and quiet. A TV glowed under a blanket in cell 7, a soft blue square that made a private world. Somewhere, a pencil scratched. Somewhere, a man whispered a prayer into his pillow. The building clicked and settled like a ship on a long wave. Lauren liked this part. It was honest. The building made its true noises, and she made hers. Keys, radio, boothiel, breath. She walked to the corner by cell 3, where the drip always hit the same tiny stain. Drip, drip, drip. Once, in training, an old officer said, "If the drip stops, look up." She smiled at the memory and kept walking. At 12:13 a.m., she heard the first odd thing. The drip sped up for 4 beats and then slowed again. Not much. Not loud. But wrong. She looked up. Nothing on the ceiling had changed. She wrote it down anyway. At 12:15 a.m., she and Tom began their round. Tom stayed at the board. Lauren took the tier. She moved slow, light held low, so she could see the floor and the small things on it. She listened. From cell 5 came a soft rub of paper against concrete. From cell 8 came the breathy squeak of a sandal. From cell 10 came nothing at all, not even the feel of someone awake. She counted that too because nothing can be information. At 12:17 a.m., the chain began to rattle over the ceiling. That was the second odd thing, and it was not small. Lauren stopped. Tom lifted his head. The intercom coughed. The voice whispered, "Do you hear us?" The cups in cell 21 tapped the floor 3 times. Tap, tap, tap. The shout down the block rose and cut off, like a door shutting on a mouth. Now, everything was sharp. Lauren called for maintenance and got silence. The chain clinked again. Tom stood. The red lights blinked once. The hallway darkened. The whisper rode the vents. You were never supposed to hear this. And when the glow returned, the ordinary song of the SHU did not come back with it. The new song stayed. They listened. The building played a list of sounds as if it were trying to teach them a language. A slow water drip sped up and slowed down like a heartbeat. The chain clinked short long like a code. The cup taps on cell 21 matched the chain. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, tap, tap. From cell 14, Anthony Diaz's bunk gave a small spring noise, like someone stood and sat without moving to the door. From cell 9 came the hollow hum of a vent turned low, then high, then low again, as if someone's hand was on a dimmer. Tom said, very quietly, "It's a count." He meant the way the sounds lined up. Lauren nodded once.
"Or a warning," she said.
She did what the old logs say to do. She spoke to the hall like it could hear. "We hear you." She kept her tone even. Even voices travel the best. If you need help, use the call button. If you're playing, stop. The cup in cell 21 rolled all by itself, slow, until it touched the door. The intercom played above it gave a soft ping, like a fingernail on a bell. Eric Vaughn, the quiet man in 21, leaned close to the glass. He spoke with his mouth almost closed, so the sound would ride the tiny gap at the edge. "Not us," he said. "That's the building." / Lauren had read complaint letters and court filings that talked about noise in solitary. People wrote about vents that hissed like snakes, lights that hummed so loud they could feel it in their teeth, pipes that knocked at odd hours. She knew the difference between that and this. This was not random. This felt like a pattern waking up. They moved to the low part again, because you must. Lauren kept walking the line. Tom kept eyes on the board. They checked hands, faces, breaths. They answered 2 simple requests. They logged the small changes. The chain did not rattle for 5 full minutes. The cups did not tap. The drip kept a slow, steady time. At 12:29 a.m., the high came back hard. Every speaker on the wall clicked on at once without any light on the panel to show it. A layered whisper filled the tier, dozens of voices under one voice, the way a crowd sounds when it tries to speak like a single person. The words were not angry. They were tired and clear. "Do you hear us now?" Not a question. A line. Tom reached for the volume knob. It did nothing. Lauren stepped toward the nearest intercom plate. Her own reflection looked thin and pale in the brushed steel. The layered whisper went on, the same 5 words, again and again, like a tide. "Do you hear us now? Do you hear us now?" She pressed and held the talk button. "We hear you," she said. "Say what you need." The layered sound stopped. The chain above the ceiling dragged one long time, like someone pulling it from the far end of the roof to the near end. The drip in the corner sped up to a fast tick. In cell 14, Anthony Diaz's bunk squeaked again. In cell 9, the vent dropped to a hush. And in cell 21, the 3 folded cups fell over by themselves, tap, 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 then lay still. For a breath. Everything was quiet. Then a single new sound rose that neither of them had ever heard in this building. It was soft, steady, and human, but it was not coming from any cell. It was coming from the empty service corridor behind the walls. It sounded like someone walking there, heel then toe, slow and patient. The steps reached the space behind the intercom plate by cell 21 and stopped. The plate flexed with a tiny metallic sigh, as if a mouth had pressed against it from the other side. Lauren swallowed. Tom stared at the board. No lights changed. No doors unlocked. No alarm showed. The sound was not on any screen.
It was only in the air.
The mouth behind the plate breathed once, and a calm, close voice that did not belong to any name on the roster spoke into the tier for everyone to hear. You are never supposed to hear what the building keeps for itself. The chain above them snapped tight. The red lights along the ceiling died together. The hallway fell into full, heavy dark. And from the empty service corridor, a key turned in a lock that none of their maps showed existed. The key turned once, slow and careful, like a breath you could hear. Lauren and Tom stood still in the dark. They did not speak. They let their ears lead. In the black, the building made a map out of sound. First came the drip, fast now, like tiny feet on metal. Then came a soft rub in the wall, the kind cloth makes against pipe. Far down the tier, a shoe squeaked and stopped. Someone coughed 2 times in cell 9. The chain above them did not move. It just waited, tight, the way a rope waits before it lifts. Backup should be on, Tom whispered. It's listening, Lauren said, and she was not sure if she meant the generator or the building. A faint red glow finally bled back into the corridor. Not bright. Just enough to give shapes edges. Doors were still shut. Windows still held. On the control board, nothing flashed. No alarm. No fault. To the system, the world was fine. Check the tier, Lauren said.
Slow.
Count by ears, not eyes. They walked together. Their boots gave a steady tick on the floor. They named what they heard as they passed, so the hall would hear them back. Cell 3, drip steady. Cell 5, paper rub. Cell 7, TV hum under blanket. Cell 9, 2 coughs, then quiet. Cell 14, bunk spring once. Cell 21, cups down, no taps. In 21, Eric Vaughn stood with his forehead near the glass. He did not look scared. He looked awake in the way people get when a room feels like it has changed shape, without moving. He spoke soft so the air would carry it. It's a pattern, he said. It's always a pattern after midnight. What does it mean? Lauren asked. He lifted one shoulder. Here's what we hear, and here's what we're told to hear. They don't always match. That line could have come from an audit or a documentary. People outside say solitary is loud with shouting. People inside know it is loud with small things you are told to ignore. Reports talk about the hum of lights, the hiss of vents, the knock of pipes. You are told it is nothing. Tonight, nothing was lining up. Tom checked cell 14. Anthony Diaz was sitting on the edge of his bunk, hands flat on his knees, eyes on the door. He did not look at them. He listened to the air, like a radio. It'll hit the ducks next, he said without moving his mouth much. You can hear it pick a lane. What will?
Tom asked.
Anthony blinked slow. Whatever thinks it can move air. They reached cell 9. Michael Reeves lifted his chin when the officers paused. That chain isn't a chain, he said. That's a cable. Cables sing. If a cable is tight, it hums when the building breathes. He was right. Older units have steel cables worked into the roof lines. When the wind or the fans shift, the cables carry the change like wire carries electricity. But cables do not make careful patterns. Cables do not speak. Lauren checked the ceiling. The vents were open just a little wider than before, as if someone in the walls had put a thumb under the edge and lifted. The red light over cell 15 flickered once and held. Tom marked the time. 12:30, 7 a.m. The high sank to low again. This is how the night keeps people honest. The strange comes in waves. In between, you still have to do the job. Lauren took 2 simple requests through the ports, 1 extra cup of water, 1 roll of toilet paper. She logged a small nosebleed at cell 6 and told the nurse. Tom called control again and got a normal answer at last. Power stable. No roof work scheduled. Maintain rounds. The voice on the radio was plain, almost bored. If you only heard that voice, you would think nothing was happening. If you stood in the tier, you would not agree. At 12:42 a.m., the service corridor behind the wall sighed, like someone running a hand down a long metal sheet. The sound slid from the far end toward cell 21 and stopped behind the intercom plate again. This time the plate did not flex. It warmed. You could see a ghost print of steam bloom on the steel and fade. "Do you hear us now?" the calm voice said again. Not a question. The floor under Lauren's boots vibrated once, a tiny pulse, like a heartbeat under concrete. "We hear you," Lauren said. She kept her tone even and small, like talking to a skittish animal. "Say it in plain words." The reply came not in words but in beats. The chain, or cable, up top gave short long. The cup in 21 matched it. Tap, tap, tap. The drip in the corner sped up to match. The vent dropped low then rose, exactly on the long beat. It was a count you could tap with your finger. It was the kind of count people use for doors, schedules, shifts. Tom stared at the board. "If I saw a panel light right now, I'd know which run it's pointing at," he said. "But we've got nothing." Lauren looked at the ceiling, then the floor, then the wall behind 21. "Maybe it's not pointing at a place," she said. "Maybe it's pointing at a time." "Which time?" A speaker down the tier clicked. The small clock above the Sally port glowed brighter for a second, then dimmed. Every watch the officers wore ticked in the same breath, an audible tick-tick, like the minute hand had moved just a little too far, and then came back. Eric in 21 said, "Listen to the pipes." They listened. Soft water moved somewhere above them, not like a flush, more like a fill. The sound passed over 17, then 18, then 19, then stopped at 20 and stayed. The bunk in 14 squeaked once, as if someone stood, and then sat. In 9, the two coughs did not come this time. 20, Lauren said. They stepped to cell 20. The window was clear. The bunk was made. The stainless sink held a thin ring of water at the lip, like it had been topped, and then stopped by an invisible finger. The man inside, James Hall, lifted a palm and pressed it to the glass so they could watch it fog. "I didn't run the tap," he said. "It ran itself." Tom set his ear to the wall between 20 and 21. Metal spoke in a small voice only his skin could hear. It was like hearing a bus through a sidewalk. Something behind the wall, air, water, wire, was moving with intent.
He stepped back.
"It's not random," he said. Lauren nodded. "It never was." The low returned. They checked the rest of the tier. They logged, looked, listened. By 12:50 a.m., the chain had not rattled for 10 minutes. The drip kept slow time. The voices on the intercom stayed quiet. For a while the building was only itself. Fans, light hum. The faint sigh of people trying to sleep in small rooms. Lauren felt her breath ease. "Maybe it's done," Tom said, not believing it. That was when the air changed temperature in a single step. Cold rolled down the corridor from the Sally port like fog made of glass. You could feel it touch your face. The red glow deepened to a darker red, the color light gets when your eyes adjust to a night older than the one on the clock. The vents all exhaled at once, a long, even breath, and the control board lit a single green, where node should be. Service. Access. Where? Tom asked the panel, as if it would answer. The answer came as sound. From inside the wall behind cell 21, a latch lifted. Not a small click. A real lift, the kind a heavy bolt makes when a strong hand takes its weight. The intercom plate warmed again, and then pulsed cool like a living thing. Eric stepped back from the glass and pointed low, toward the baseboard. Lauren dropped to a knee and put her ear to the seam where concrete met steel. She heard steps in the service corridor. Not fast. Not trying to hide. The steps stopped exactly where her ear was.
A pause.
One soft knock at floor level. Then another. Then another. Knock. 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 "Who's there?" she asked and knew how silly it sounded the second it left her mouth. A new sound came back that was not a sound at all, but the absence of one. The whole tier held its breath. Every vent, every light, every person behind every door made less noise for one count, as if the building had flattened itself to listen to. The calm voice spoke from the plate, the ceiling, and the far speakers all at once. You were never supposed to hear the service door open.
Why?
Tom asked, careful. Because the service door does not open. What happens if it does? Silence. Then, from the other side of the wall, the bolt dropped with a weight that shook dust from the vent. Metal slid against metal, long, final. The service door unlocked. For a half-second, nothing else moved. Then every red emergency light on the tier went white-hot bright, like flares. The chain above the ceiling screamed, as if it had snapped in two. The drip in the corner stopped dead. And from the now open seam at the base of the wall behind 21, cold air poured into the corridor with the sound of water rushing through a cave. The control board flashed a message, none of their training covered. Service door, unknown. Lauren stood so fast her knee barked.
Tom.
Back the team to the port.
Now.
He keyed the radio. Control, we have unregistered service access behind cell 21. Request immediate. The radio cut off with a clean, sharp click, like a finger pressed and released from his throat mic. His voice did not make it out. Instead, the intercom carried a different line, spoken in a tone so calm it made the hair along Lauren's arms rise. Do you hear us now? The voice said, and under it other voices whispered the count. Short, short, long, short, short, long, matching the chain, the cups, the drip. The seam behind 21 widened the width of a coin. And from that dark line in the wall, a new sound slid into the tier, soft and close, the one sound no map had ever listed because no one had ever been allowed to hear it. The quiet click of a key dropping onto concrete from a hand they could not see.